Hurricane Irma barrels towards the U.S. mainland, while leaving Caribbean devastation in its wake. Could the renegotiation of the North American Free Trade Agreement hurt American farmers? And how Kenyan girls are moving the goalposts with football. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. You know, tonight, one of the most prominent medical charities is calling on European Union states to stop sending migrants back to Libya. Doctors Without Borders President Dr. Jean Liu says people should not have to choose between dying in Libya or dying at sea while risking their lives attempting to cross the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean. During a press conference about the conditions in Libyan detention camp centers, Doctors Without Borders officials urged European governments and the European Commission to find a more humane solution.
Trapping people in Libya, we must find them a way out. And we must not force them to return to Libya. We must open up other options, humane option. So today, we are making a public appeal, sending this open letter to governments in Europe, asking leaders to publicly position themselves on what is happening in Libya today. Are they okay with containing and sending people back to where they would be raped, tortured, and enslaved?
Well, thousands of migrants trying to reach Europe by boat often go through Libya, where many face hardships, including torture and detentions in the hands of people smugglers. In the United States, Florida is bracing for a direct hit by Hurricane Irma. The Category 5 Atlantic storm has swept over the Caribbean islands, leaving death and destruction in its wake. It is expected to slam southern Florida by Sunday morning before barreling north to Georgia and South Carolina. As VOA's Laditza Hoke reports, two more storms are intensifying in the Atlantic, but are not expected to reach the shores of the United States.
Nearly every building was damaged on the Caribbean island of Barbuda when the eye of the storm passed through Wednesday. About 1 million people were left without power in Puerto Rico, although the island was not directly hit. If the center of the storm passes through Florida, the consequences could be catastrophic.
It is so powerful right now that it holds the record for the entire globe, including Pacific typhoons, which are usually stronger than Atlantic hurricanes. Irma has been at 185 miles an hour for 37 hours. That's more than any other storm, including it beat the record that was held by Super Typhoon Haiyan, which only a few years ago killed 6,000 people in the Philippines. So that's why this is a scary storm.
President Trump's estate Mar-a-Lago and his other Florida properties are on Irma's projected path. He told reporters Thursday Florida is as prepared as can be.
Again, the governor is working very hard. FEMA, the Coast Guard, all of our people are very well prepared. We're going to be knowing pretty soon, you know, where it is. We have a pretty good accuracy as to path, but unfortunately, we'll be knowing pretty soon. Hopefully we'll have some good news. That's what we're waiting for, is good news.
Florida Governor Rick Scott has ordered mandatory evacuation for residents of the Florida Keys and southeastern coastal areas, but warned others against being complacent.
This is serious, and we cannot take chances. It is life-threatening. This is not a storm you can sit and wait through.
Roads in Florida are getting congested as people head out, and there are long lines at stores and gas stations.
Gas is running out everywhere right now, so I'm just a little too late trying to get it, I guess.
I'm from the Caribbean. I'm aware of hurricane, but I'm taking this very seriously.
Fortunately, I was able to buy a one-way ticket to Memphis.
The American Red Cross still has volunteers on the ground in Texas helping the victims of Hurricane Harvey, but is now getting ready for Irma.
We're also getting ready to train additional volunteers that are willing to deploy for 2 weeks. So once we know we're safe and secure here, we will be sending those volunteers wherever they're needed on the East Coast.
Residents of coastal South Carolina also have been ordered to evacuate starting Saturday morning. Officials in all southeast coastal areas are watching the storm developments and may order more evacuations. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
In East Africa, Kenyan opposition leader Raila Odinga says he will make the mismanagement of last month's annulled presidential vote the focus of his new election campaign, linking it to a series of political scandals. Now, the Supreme Court last week nullified the August 8th election, ruling that incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta's win by 1.4 million votes was invalid due to flaws in the tallying process. However, the judges said Kenyatta was not at fault, placing the blame on the Election Commission, which had not followed procedures designed to allow a transparent vote. Now, the ruling Jubilee coalition has denied manipulating the vote. Kenya's Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says different staffers will now be in charge of the rerun, but it has not opened up the election records for scrutiny or announced any disciplinary measures. Now, for more insight on Kenya's political situation, David Monda, a political scientist and a professor at City University of New York and a native of Kenya, joins me live from New York. Professor Monda, welcome to Africa 54. Now, question here is, first, how comfortable personally are you that this upcoming rerun presidential election can actually be conducted in a way that will be acceptable by all? All right, we got a problem there with our audio. We can't get to our professor in New York, and hopefully we get that fixed. Probably we can talk to him again. But we continue right here with the rest of our stories, and we have a break. Just a minute.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
Well, in Friday business news, Somalia's capital city is on the brink of something very exciting in terms of technology. Here with more details is Africa 54 business correspondent Jill Malandrino, who's reporting from the Nasdaq market site in New York. Jill.
Coming soon to Mogadishu, Somalia's first fully fledged innovation hub. Quartz reports that it will officially open the Somali capital in September, which will function as a co-working space and provide research, incubation, and acceleration services for new startups. Now, the name iRise, it's a play on the Somalia Rising hashtag from Twitter, which has been used to document the country's socioeconomic improvement over the last few years. The principal founder of iRise says there's an increased need for these kinds of spaces in order to realize the full potential of Somalia's technology sector. Yet establishments like iRise will have to overcome many challenges. Internet provision in Somalia is not widespread, with a recent 3-week blackout. Somalia doesn't have a regulatory framework for both ICT and financial sectors and faces major security risks that hinder foreign investment. That said, an aspirational technology sector has been growing in the Horn of Africa for years, and Somalia has one of the mobile money markets in the world, one of the fastest growing, with millions of people to e-payment services. From the Nasdaq market site in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino, and this is Africa 54 Business News.
Well, last month, the United States began renegotiating NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which with Canada and Mexico, fulfilling a campaign promise made by President Donald Trump. While much of the focus is on manufacturing jobs, the 1994 NAFTA agreement provided a critical boost for U.S. agricultural exports. As viewers Ken Farabaugh reports, farmers are concerned about whether changes to the current agreement could hurt them financially.
Ken Beck describes life as a farmer in the U.S. right now as a gamble.
Risky at best. there is no money in this game anymore.
Beck says he is entering a 5th year of losing money, due in part to lower corn and soy prices and high input costs for fertilizer and seed. He says there is something the U.S. government can do to help.
Trade, which is under attack right now.
The Trump administration's decision to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP agreement, erased Beck's hope for increased demand and ultimately prices for his corn and soybeans, which is why he is closely watching the U.S. government's efforts to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA.
For a corn producer, grain producer, NAFTA's been extremely good.
The U.S. sent more than $2.5 billion of corn to Mexico in 2016, making it one of the top suppliers to its southern neighbor. But this year, Mexican imports of both U.S. soybean and corn are down, and Beck knows he now has competition.
Mexico, for the first time in history, bought corn from Argentina. Now, was it cheaper? No, but they're sending a signal.
Other signals that concern Beck are those from President Trump, who has threatened to withdraw from NAFTA, creating further uncertainty for U.S. farmers.
I think everybody's running a little bit scared because we're in uncharted territory.
So if you have a shock, like pulling out of TPP or not keeping the agreement going on NAFTA, it makes the markets nervous and it lowers the farmers' farm income.
Tamara Nelson is the Senior Director of Commodities for the Illinois Farm Bureau. She's heard from many farmers concerned about the increased rhetoric as negotiations continue.
We hope that some of the rhetoric that's sort of anti-trade, anti-exports for agriculture will turn around and that we'll actually have some achievements.
Hopefully cooler heads prevail and we can tweak this or do a little something and nothing much surely changes.
Whatever happens, Nelson says it's important to reach a new agreement soon.
There is a presidential election next year in Mexico, and so if things do not move quickly, it's possible they might make some progress here in the U.S. and Canada and Mexico in the next 4 months, and then we might see a slide into some stalemate. So the hope is, by the ag groups and others, is to keep it moving.
Farmer Ken Beck also hopes negotiations keep moving because time to make money isn't on his side at the moment.
Decisions right in the next few weeks are going to have to be made for next year already.
As Beck keeps one eye on his bank account, the other is looking at the skies above his Illinois farm as he deals with the other major unknown in his life right now, the weather. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Prairie Center, Illinois.
And now we want to go back to New York, where we speak with Professor David Monda about Kenya's election. Professor, I was asking you, how confident are you personally that the election, the rerun election on the 17th of October, can actually be conducted in a way that will be acceptable to all Kenyans?
I think currently, with the current conditions, especially the confusion on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the tug and war between the chairman and some of the officials on the board really doesn't bode well for the commission, because the commission is supposed to be the neutral arbiter and ensure that all systems are ready to go for the election. So currently, there's a heavy sense of confusion. Both the NASA and Jubilee coalitions are squabbling with the Boundaries and Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So I'm not very confident right now.
Now, we know that time is limited, but the Electoral Commission seems to be very adamant that the election has to happen on the 17th. We don't have all the details about what were the mistakes that were made. Do you think the time available is enough to fix those problems?
I think the time available is enough, but there might be have to be some negotiation between the parties involved, Jubilee, NASA, and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, the IEBC, about some flexibility in terms of that date, because rushing towards an election and then having electoral petitions challenged in court will bring us back to the same position, where another election rerun has to be done. Let's also remember that the country spent quite a bit of money on these elections. They're some of the most expensive elections in the world. So this is really draining resources from other public goods and services which other Kenyans desperately need.
Now, would it have helped if both sides, in fact, would sit down and make sure that everything is in place so that instead of squabbling, they should have an interest in having this electoral commission in a position to hold this election in a way that will be acceptable to both?
Exactly. But I think the most important point is the IEBC needs to ensure that its house is in order and that both sides are confident that a free, fair, and credible election will be done. Let's not forget that both Jubilee and NASA are interested parties in this election, so it's natural for them to both be squabbling and jockeying for position to get an advantage. So the chairman of the IEBC really needs to ensure that this confusion, infighting within his board is brought to an end, and that all interested parties, not only the Jubilee and NASA coalitions, but also some of the third-party candidates that are threatening to sue in court, are included in this whole process so that a date can be set for the rerun and this thing can be done in an open and credible way.
Well, we hope this time everybody will get it right. Professor Monda, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
That is Professor David Monda, who's a political scientist and professor at City University of New York. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, learning empowerment through football. We'll be right back.
If our Uhuru Kenyatta, looking at what has transpired now, I would just resign and let this thing go.
We came on a fact-finding mission over the events that took place in that barracks.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Now, a Japanese company has developed a motion and health tracking wearable technology with stretchable wires and sensors embedded onto traditional textiles. Dubbed eSkin, the makers say it can withstand high strain rates when subjected to the wearer's repeated and extreme movements, making it ideal as smart sportswear. Now, the most initial interest has come from the gaming sector, where the eSkin's gesture tracking can make games characters perform movements like running, jumping, and punching. They're also developing sports applications for eSkin, including an app that assesses golf swing and suggests improvements. Well, next up, Britain's biggest car maker has announced it will make all of its vehicles electric or part electric from the year 2020. Jaguar and Rover is following in the footsteps of Volvo, which plans for all of its new cars to have an electric motor from 2019. Earlier this year, the French and British governments announced a plan to ban all new petrol and diesel cars and vans from year 2040 as part of efforts to tackle air pollution and climate change. Now, the company's CEO says internal combustion engines will still be available across the range. Jaguar will release its first fully electric car next year, the I-Pace Compact SUV. Well, and finally, Brussels is embracing street art and is working with artists and building owners to commission large, colorful works throughout Belgian capital. In the last few years, local authorities have been directly sponsoring urban artworks keen to beautify the landscape or spread a social message. But not everyone loves the new public art trend. Some say that street art lost its sense of rebellion, and now that artists no longer need to work under cover of darkness and outside the law. And that is what is trending today. Now, a Kenyan NGO known as Moving the Goalpost is helping young girls and women from poor backgrounds to develop leadership skills through football. A team of 8 girls are representing Kenya and the African continent this month in New York. Africa 54's Esther Githui has the story.
Dressed in football sports attire and colorful customized clothes to represent their Kenyan roots, a group of 8 girls from Kilifi County in the coastal region of Kenya have been training hard ahead of the competition. They will compete in the Global Goals World Cup tournament in New York. Dorcas Amakobe is the executive director of Moving the Goalpost organization.
We are implementing a program to empower girls. One, to give them skills, football skills, and around these football skills we are giving them an opportunity to learn about their sexual and reproductive health so that they can be able to access, for example, reproductive health services. We are also giving girls an opportunity to sit together in groups, form table banking groups, access loans within themselves, and also connect them to organizations or companies that are able to provide them with loans like banks, like microfinance institutions.
The tournament is also aimed at raising awareness of the United Nations 17 Global Goals for Sustainable Development Goals, an ambitious set of global goals to conquer poverty, inequality, and other international challenges by 2030. Many of the participating girls like Dama Fondo say being part of the program is helping them gain new insight into what the future offers.
MTT has helped me in many things, like supporting me to pursue my secondary school education, even in college. They are going to help me even in that one, so that to improve my life.
For the past 15 years, the organization has been using sports to address some of the challenges women in Kilifi face, especially poverty and gender inequality. Fatime Tibu is the team's coach.
We work together so that we can make sure we achieve what we want to go and achieve. So I can tell the Kenyan people, because we are going to represent Kenya and as well the African people. So we are going to carry the trophy from New York to Kilifi and as well to Kenya.
The Global Goals World Cup tournament will be held in New York on September 19th on the sidelines of the annual United Nations General Assembly. Esther Githui, VOA News, Washington.
Well, and it's time now for Music Makers segment, and today we bring you the music of Nigerian artist Chinedu Okoli, better known as Flavor. For more about the artist and his music, I'm joined by VOA RM Music Show host Roger Munter. Roger, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So you bring us Flavor. Who's Flavor, man?
Flavor, man. Mr. Flavor. And you know, that's the way he always started. So it's like Mr. Flavor.
Mr. Flavor.
This guy's a superstar. Yeah. And it's not just in Nigeria, where he's originally from, but all over Africa today. Mr. Flavor is going to be in town this weekend and throughout the whole month, probably having a different concert in different places, getting ready for the Nigerian independence, October 1st.
And he has not an easy time, because I know Nigeria now has some young artists who are really...
Exactly. As we know, that music industry in Nigeria is just exploding. But it takes a special... This particular guy has a different... And now we're going to see why.
So let's see. Which is this song? Do you remember what we're going to watch?
God, man. I wish I could say it.
Let's just listen to Flavor. Let's watch Flavor.
Mr. Flavor.
Mr. Flavor.
choice. You can dream if you believe. Give it all you've got. They are fast, I am faster. They are strong, but I'm stronger. I'm the best, so I pick up my chest. My dream, my speed, and my strength. Give me the power to win. Give me the power to win. Give me the power to win. We're flying high to the top. Can't stop me yet. Give me the power to win.
Flava Flava is actually really big in Nigeria, as you said, but his music is kind of different, actually.
His music is kind of different, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
The reason why his music is different is we know that most Nigerians do actually sing in Yoruba or Pidgin English, but he actually sing in Igbo language. He made it so different. He made people who even don't understand any word in Igbo to like his music. And as you were saying, what makes this guy different, first of all, his look. He works out a lot. He has a beautiful voice. He's a great singer. He dances amazingly well. He's also a producer. And
he plays instrument.
And he plays instrument. He's a pianist. He played the piano. And people don't know about this, but he started by being a drummer before becoming a singer. They don't know that. That was his passion. And he didn't want to make music. That was not his thing. But he just got lucky to have a scholarship, a music scholarship, and took it because there was nothing else open at that time. And today he's on top of the world.
So he's a true professional.
True professional.
And I think he's really influencing many people.
Yeah, we're going to try to bring him here at VOA when it's going to be here.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I hope we can listen to a bit more of him.
Exactly.
So Roger, thank you very much.
Thank you for having
this
me.
with us.
I appreciate it.
And I hope someday soon me and you can be able to
but we need to work out. We need to get a six-pack like this guy.
Thank you very much. That's
thank you for having me.
Roger Munter, who once again has brought us that fantastic music maker segment. Now, to learn more about Roger Munter himself and his VOA radio show, visit Facebook and type in the keywords RM Show VOA, and you can see what time his program can be heard in your area, and also get more information about some of his featured artists. Thank you very much. And that's our show for today. I want to wish you a good night. Enjoy more of our music.
But I'm stronger, I'm the best, so I pick up my chest. My dream, my speed, and my strength. Give me the power to win. Give me the power to win. Give me the power to win. We're flying high to the top. Can't stop me yet. Give me the power to win. Can't stop us now. Don't be scared when it seems like everything around is.
Welcome to English in a Minute. A cannon used to be a common military weapon.
Loose cannon.
So, are Anna and Jonathan talking about an old battle?
Hey, I'm looking for someone to host a political event tomorrow night. Can your friend Sylvia help out?
Sylvia? She's a loose cannon. You never know what she's going to say. She could easily